One of the big changes with the new regulation is we're moving toward a visual tactile evaluation of soils in a backhoe excavation. Before, we used a lot of boreholes. So you geotech folks, we just got a rig out and drilled a 4-inch diameter hole, maybe took a couple drive samples, took that back to the lab, and we got a classification using the unified system. So we've gone from borehole perk test to a backhoe cut excavation, visual tactile, and if you wish, you can also do percolation tests along with the test pit excavation. So when you look at a profile, you can see a lot more in this than you can with a 4-inch borehole. So that's one big advantage to this new system. So if you look at, let's start with texture. The textural triangle, its fancy word for that is a trilinear diagram. So soil is made up of 3 principal particles: sand, silt, and clay. And my gosh, what's this? Is this a sand, silt, or clay? Or it's a rock, right? So this is a handy tool to get. I don't know if they charge for it. I think it's a free download. But if you want this, I think there's a charge. Nice little, all you want to know at your fingertips using NRCS. So the system says anything larger than 2 millimeters in size is a rock fragment. And then within the rock fragments, there's gravel, cobbles, and boulders. So, believe it or not, I think, Roy, what's the gravel cutoff size? 75 millimeters?
Yeah, 3 inches.
3 inches.
Right at 3 inches.
So, it's not intuitive that this is a gravel-sized rock fragment, right? To me, this would be more like a cobble. So once we get into this size stuff, this is a cobble. Okay, so those are the size cutoffs. So for the textural triangle, we're interested in the percentage of sand, silt, and clay. So how do we determine that? Well, you could go to a lab and run a sieve, take the stuff that's smaller than the 270 sieve, which is your silt and clays, and run a hydrometer on that. About $200 worth of lab work, probably 2 weeks to get that back. So we can do this real quickly with our thumb and forefinger. So up here, when you have a dry sample, is sieve out the bigger particles. We would typically have a number 10 sieve to do that. But this is all ready to go. So I'm gonna get it wet. Not too little water, not too much. And it's getting there. It's getting there. So on the back of your laminated chart is a flow chart. So the first thing you do is you form it up and ask yourself, will it form a ball? Okay, so I got a ball here, right? Everybody can see that. So right away, starting with the flow chart, I'm going to use the same one.
Just hold it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, so does the soil remain in a ball when squeezed? Yes, okay.
Yes. Okay.
So that means it's that eliminates sand and loamy sand, right? So if the answer to that question was no, I would flow down here and it would either be a sand or a loamy sand. So the answer is yes. So I got to go through the next step. And then the next question is, a little more water here, will it ribbon? And by ribboning, I'm going to just simply squeeze it between thumb and forefinger, and a little dry.
Basically it's structure. What holds its structure?
Not structure, just texture. So what, good question though, you brought up a good point and I will address that. What makes a soil ribbon? Clay. Yeah, clay content. That's primarily what's making it stick together or be cohesive. Silt also does that to a lesser degree,
Right.
but it's the clay in it that's making this ribbon up. So, will it form a ribbon? Yeah, it's ribboning. The question is then, how long is the ribbon? So we split.
Couple inches?
I'm gonna say it's 2 inches. Okay. So that's the next part of this thing is how long is the ribbon? And we have 3 ribbon classes. 1 inch or less, 1 to 2 inches, or more than 2 inches. So in this case,
It goes more than 2, right?
I'm going to say more than 2,
So you're
right?
definitely in a clay.
Okay, so that puts us down here in the right, in the blue materials, the clays. So if you look at this chart, we're in the blue region on your chart. With the 2-inch ribbon, we're into the blue category. Okay, then there's one final test that we need to run. So what we do from there is we take some of the sample and we wet it up even more. And we start to really feel it here. So it's asking us, does it feel gritty?
Yeah.
Does it feel very smooth? Or is it neither gritty nor smooth? What would account for the grit in this? Excellent. And the range of particle sizes for sand is quite large. So a coarse sand is almost like a gravel. It's a pretty good size. Fine sand, once you get real close to the boundary between sand and silt, it gets more and more fine. So I can feel some grit in here. Very gritty. It's not very smooth because I've got grit in here. Neither gritty or smooth. I'm going to say it feels gritty. Okay, I'm going to stick my neck out because the answer is sitting right here before me. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to look like a fool. But this is how we learn, right? So, I'm going to say it's a sandy clay. Okay, I've got the answer here. I'm sorry.
Is it clay?
This says clay.
Clay.
So clay would have us be neither gritty nor smooth.
Gotta be some grittiness, I suppose.
So we're going to wind up here with texturing. I've got the full range, everything on this chart, everything here is represented here in one or another sample, and we won't have time to get a touch on all these. What's interesting, I'm probably overthinking this because now that I know the answer, I'm thinking it's smoother than I think.
It's pretty smooth. It's not much sand.
Yeah. So I would agree with this. Yeah. So quick review. It forms a ball. It forms a ribbon, a fairly long ribbon, 2 inches or more. We're in the blue, and then I'm getting the feel of neither gritty nor smooth, so that's a clay material. So it's either a type 4 or a 4A.
Could you give us a description when you get a chance on what you guys consider loam?
In fact, I've got a bag of loam here, and we can look at that here in a minute. Is that your loam there?
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and pour some out in there and wet it up. So, question. We've got a lot of materials with the word loam in it, right? So that's probably why you're asking the question. So there's a lot of modifiers on the loam. So which is going to have more sand in it, a sandy loam or a silt loam? Okay, so your sand axis is on the bottom here. So we have increasing sand content going from right to left. So as we move into the left region of the chart, we're getting into a lot more sand in the sample. So as far as a loading rate for a design of a system, whether it's a sandy loam, a silt loam, or even a silt, it's all in this yellow category. So it's a 2 or a 2A. So if you're a little off, like I was here, I wasn't quite sure if I was at a sandy clay or a clay. Would it matter in terms of my design? On the blue region. So quick point, what separates a 4 from a 4A soil? Structure, right. So we'll maybe be able to touch a little on structure with the test bit. These don't exhibit structure.
Based on the chart, it looks like loam is predominantly what we would call silt. I mean, it looks like if it's 60% more silt, then so really anything with predominant silt it would be considered a loam. Again, I'm coming from geotech side as opposed to more environmental side.
So going down this axis on the right, the silt axis, increasing silt as we go down and to the right. So silt loam obviously is going to have considerably more silt in it than a sandy loam, even though sandy loam will also have silt. So let's wet one of these loams up. Okay. So a loam is it's not in the exact centroid of this shape, but it's pretty much kind of centered. So if we were to take this sample here of loam, does it form a ball? Right? Okay, then our next test is the ribbon. This is a little on the wet side, so I'm going to add a little dry material to this. Just to kind of de-wet it some. Okay. So then we go ahead and ribbon it up. So it's ribboning, but it's wanting to break off. And it's going to break off with less than an inch of ribbon. So that puts us into the yellow category, right? Okay, then the next test is we do the wet it up more. And do the very gritty, very smooth, or neither gritty nor smooth. Well, it's not gritty. There's no grit in this. just a little bit. Now the next question is very smooth or neither gritty nor smooth. Oh, it's borderline there for me. There's just a little grit in this, and you'll get a chance to come feel these later. So I'm going to say neither gritty nor smooth, so it's a loam. If I'm off and I call it a silt loam, it's not going to hurt my design because it's the same loading rate depending on whether it has structure or not. So, but yeah, any of these here in the yellow category, they've all got some clay in them. Because clay on your left-hand side, reading horizontal, it's got clay in it. So that's a quick crash course in soil texturing